In this video we are going to study a very interesting master game in which we will see how white starts the game with the tips we have learned in another video about the best opening for beginners. The game started with the moves e4, e5. And now white played knight f3, developing the king's knight and threatening to capture the e5 pawn. Black answered knight c6, developing the queen's knight and defending the e5 pawn. White played bishop c4, developing the king's bishop towards a good diagonal and preparing to castle. Black played bishop c5, entering the Italian game. Now, white played d3, reinforcing the defense of the e4 pawn and allowing the development of the queen's bishop. Black played knight f6, developing his king's knight and preparing to castle. White played knight c3, developing his queen's knight and increasing control over the central squares. Black played h6, taking control of the g5 square to prevent white from making use of that square. White played bishop e3, completing the development of his minor pieces and opposing the action of the opponent's bishop. If black now captures on e3, white recaptures with the pawn, thus reinforcing his control of the central squares. In addition, the f-file is open, which would favor white. Therefore, in the game, black moved his bishop back to the b6 square, maintaining the tension. If now it is white who exchanges bishops, capturing on b6, black can recapture with the rook pawn, thus opening the a-file for the black rook, which would benefit black. In the game, after bishop b6, white castled. Black played d6, reinforcing the defense of the e5 point and allowing the development of the queen's bishop. Now, white played knight e2, a typical maneuver in this type of position. White's idea is to move his queen's knight to the g3 square, where it will be very well placed, as it will reinforce the defense of the e4 pawn and, at the same time, will be ready to move to the f5 square, which will be an excellent position in the enemy camp. Black played knight e7 with the idea of bringing the knight to the g6 square and trying to copy white's plans, since the f4 square will be an excellent position for black's knight. White played knight g3, completing the maneuver with his knight. And black played knight g6, also completing the maneuver with his knight. White played h3, taking control of the g4 square to prevent black from making use of that square. Black castled. White played queen d2, moving the queen to connect the rooks. The immediate threat is to sacrifice the bishop on h6. For example, if black plays bishop d7, completing the development of his minor pieces, white can sacrifice the bishop on h6. After g takes h6, queen takes h6, white threatens to capture on g6, taking advantage of the pin along this diagonal. White also threatens to bring his knights to the attack and has a decisive attack. In the game, after the move queen to d2, black captured on e3 to eliminate the white bishop and avoid danger. White recaptured with the pawn, thereby reinforcing control of the central squares, taking control of the f4 square, so that the black knight will not be able to jump to that square, and at the same time the f-file has been opened and white will be able to incorporate all the pieces into the attack on the king side. Now, black played d5, trying to react in the center, to try to obtain counterplay. White played e takes d5, eliminating the opponent's central pawn and getting rid of his doubled pawn. Black played knight takes d5. White played e4, placing a pawn in the center, attacking the opponent's knight and taking control of the f5 square to secure that square for the knight. Black played knight d to f4. White played king h2, improving the position of his king and preparing to attack on the king side. Black played queen d6, mobilizing his queen. White played knight f5, occupying a strong outpost with his knight and threatening to capture the opponent's queen. Black captured the white knight, which was a very dangerous piece. After e takes f5, the black knight is attacked. Black played knight e7, defending his knight. White played rook to e1, bringing his queen rook into play and increasing the pressure against the e5 pawn. Black cannot defend the pawn with f6, since the pawn is pinned. Knight c6, to defend the e5 pawn, would also not be good, because white plays f6, with a very strong attack. For example, in case of queen takes f6, white plays g3, to push back the black knight. After knight h5, white plays knight takes e5 and puts a lot of pressure on black's position. In the game, black played rook f to d8. But he resigned the game. Since white plays bishop takes f7 check. After king takes f7, white plays knight takes e5 check. King g8. Knight c4, attacking the queen and the knight on f4. White wins easily. A very instructive game, in which we have seen how white easily developed his pieces with the Italian opening. The best opening for beginners.